What's good, party people? This is Voodoo in the Woods. I'm Gordon in the Woods. That is former U of MMA champion Pius Lobo, better known as Voodoo Maximus. And we are Voodoo in the Woods collectively, and we are going to be talking about last night's UFC Vegas 19. And but before we go, we're going to give a hearty shout out to Friday night's LFA. Shout out to a friend of the show, Tommy Aaron, who engaged in a war en route to a victory after a damn near 2-year layoff. So shout out to Tommy Aaron and everybody at LFA. Shout out to, in conjunction, at least in my mind, we had Josh Barnett's Bloodsport 5 and another impressive event. So shout out to everyone at Bloodsport, and we are getting former WWE champion, former AEW champion Jon Moxley against former IWGP, UFC, Meta Morris, and King of Pancrase champion, the one and only War Master Josh Barnett. That is going to be the main event of Josh Barnett's Bloodsport 6 in April. So can't wait for that. So shout out to all of you fine folks that competed at both events. But we are here, UFC Vegas 19, and there was a little bit of controversy coming out. Obviously, the day before, 3 fighters missing weight by a large margin. So, man, let's get into it, Voodoo. We touched on it, that the weight thingy and whatever. But what was your take on that whole deal?
I couldn't put it together in my mind how people at the highest level of the game, so many of them, they went against what got them to the dance. They did all this work to get to the dance, and when they finally got to the dance, they called an audible when it wasn't even necessary. Why would you call an audible when it's not necessary? I mean, the hole in the defense, this is a football reference, by the way. A hole in the defense is right there and it's clear. Why are you calling an audible? Why? And this was what happened everyone, primarily most of the folks that lost yesterday did not even have to lose. They lost because they called it audible for no apparent reason. And I can't explain it. It makes no sense to me. The path to victory was right there. It was right there, clear as daylight. But yet they chose to do something different, and they paid dearly for it.
Yeah, and here's the crazy thing about it. Obviously, you want, as a martial artist, as a mixed martial artist, you want to be able to adapt your skill set, your knowledge level, or what have you. But if there's something that is your bread and butter, at a time of a crucial matchup and whatever, and that is the thing that will thwart your opponent, why not do that? Why not do that?
Right. I mean, if wrestling was what got you to the game, why go away from wrestling and finally get to the big show? Wrestling got you to the game. Yes, you're going to need to add things to your repertoire to diversify yourself, right? People say, don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? Okay, that makes sense. Why spread all your assets, spread it across the board? It got you to the game, and then you put all your eggs in one basket when you got to the game. Why? Makes no sense. Perhaps it's the pressure of the moment, pressure of the event, knowing that this is ESPN and millions and millions and millions of people are watching. Before it wasn't millions, now there are millions. Perhaps that's the issue, but you should be ready for that. This is what you waited your entire life for. You waited your entire life for the big stage, and now you're on the big stage. And why mess it all up when you finally make it to the big stage? I just don't understand. I mean, how can you lose weight, miss weight by 12 pounds? 12 pounds. Why? How do you miss weight by 12 pounds and call yourself a professional in the UFC? What is going on? It was just a huge debacle, as they say. I just don't have the words for it. I just don't have the words.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously, I am not a fighter. Don't claim to be. I'm not nothing like a badass or none of that. None of that. Anybody that confused me for a badass, I'm like, you might need to get your eyes checked. So I genuinely have concern for you and your predicament. But I digress, right? I digress. For me, in terms of weight cutting, I think it's weird because in the UFC, specifically the UFC, right? In their quest to become a sport on equal to the NFL and whatever. And it's weird that I say UFC as the sport. They're not the sport. They are the premier organization of MMA, or it later became MMA, but the precursor were no holds barred or vale tudo and what have you, right? So
Mm-hmm.
those were it. But I think in the quest for the UFC specifically to get licensing and what have you on in state by state, country by country, or whatever, they went on of the behest of whether it be amateur and Greco-Roman wrestling types, boxing and everything, and weight cuts. Now I'm kind of I'm kind of in a weird position, somebody outside looking in, because you have do you want it to be like Minowa over in Japan and a 155-pounder face a sumo wrestler, right? Like that's not going to work, right? But then also if you agree to a bout at 145 pounds, right? And by the time you rehydrate and everything like that, you're 170. Is this really a featherweight bout, right? So for me, I personally don't like weight cuts. I want weight cuts to leave because I don't think they have a place in MMA. Now, I think in terms of ONE FC, what they're doing in hydration tests and people fighting their natural weight, I hope more organizations essentially get wind of that. Do exactly that. Whatever you fight, that's where you fight, whatever. Because again, with weight cutting, there's so many ways that you can get it wrong, which we obviously were privy to in the weigh-ins up to this fight. There's so many ways to get it wrong, right? But if you get it wrong, if you I don't put your hand on the stove, right? You put your hand on the stove, what'll happen? You get burned, right? And depending on your reaction, you either get burned, minor burn, right? Pull away, or you get burned like engulf your entire body, right? But those are lessons, right? Now, in that scenario, you can't, basically, you make that one mistake, but that one mistake is where you pay dearly, right? And in the instances of weight cutting, well, guess what? If you make a mistake weight cutting, there's irreversible effects that you have on your body, on your kidneys, your vital organs, that those are going to be there forever. So even if you mess up, oops, my bad, but these are things that could potentially end your life. So that's where I don't like it. You're already in this deal of like risking your life to fight. Let's mitigate all of the other things before we get you into the cage to make you die.
Yeah, yeah. Why do fighters cut weight? Why do they like you said, they got it from boxing, and it's pretty much to get an advantage, right? Usually a fella who is much larger is coming down to a certain weight class. So if there's a larger guy in your weight class, it only makes sense that you go down and find people that are around your weight, your size and weight. I mean, look at Khabib, for example. Khabib, when he is hydrated, when he is not fighting, he's upwards of 200 pounds. You know what I mean? 95 to 200 pounds. right? Look at Darren Tills. Darren Tills at one point was cutting down to 170 pounds, and he was walking around some 220 or something like that. It's to get an advantage over the competition, and preferably make your way to a title a lot easier. So this is why they do it, and I guess I understand. Me, I understand too. There's something about cutting weight that I actually enjoyed. I enjoyed it because it puts me in that mind frame of, okay, we're going to war, and to go to war, I have to baptize myself in fire. You know what I mean? Yes, I have to baptize myself in fire so I can become pure. And on the fight night, I'm already pure, and let's go to war and do what we have to do. That was my interpretation of it. It was an advantage, it was an advantage, but there was a psychological aspect to it as well that I actually enjoyed. Getting in that sauna and staying in that sauna 120 degrees or whatever it was, and staying in there, it makes you mentally tough. And getting in that water, that hot water, Epsom salt or whatnot, and just enduring. There's something about that. That has an effect on the fighter psychologically. So that I'll give them. But outside of that, it's unnecessary. So ONE FC, like you said, they're doing things right. They're keeping fighters in their original weight class, something closest to their original weight. And I believe the sport is headed in this direction. It might take some time. But I do believe that the sport is headed in that ONE FC style hydration format. So I look forward to seeing that.
Absolutely. But I'd be remiss not to mention our special guest for this edition of Voodoo in the Woods. From the fighter's voice with Don Mcguire, he is the one and only Don Mcguire.
What's happening, my man? I apologize for being a little bit late, but Richard Abram getting ready to fight down in Mexico. Glory, kickboxing world champion, Muay Thai world champion. You kind of just ain't gonna cut him off right at the hip when you got to go do something else. So I apologize to you. I apologize to Voodoo and all your listeners, my man.
No, we're good. You came at a right time because we are getting in to the first fight of the night for this UFC fight, Vegas Fight Night. Oh God, I forgot the name of it. But we have the polar bear, not the non-original polar bear, because that is obviously Paul Varland's, rest in peace. But polar bear Sergey Spivak against the mountain Jared Vandera. So this one essentially ended. Oh my goodness. This one was the very first KO of the night, with Sergey knocking out Jared in 4 minutes and 32 of the second round. Guys, what did you think about this one?
Yes, indeed. Sergey Spivak, he had all the striking attributes, and surprisingly, he initiated the ground. He went for the takedown, took down Jared Vanderer, and he put it to him. He cut him up with some very good elbows in the second round, and grounded and pounded him to oblivion. The referee had to help him out and save his career. And that was pretty much how that went. What about you, Mr. Mcguire?
Yeah, I have to agree with you, man. It was I actually liked the undercard of this fight. I honestly actually liked it better than in some ways of the main card. But this fight in particular, I think Spivak handled his business. I think it was a profound moment in his walk. I think he needed to prove a point. I think he came out there in style, and I think he showed the world what he was capable of. See, a lot of people want to just put quick synopsises on things, but I don't care how good you are. I don't care what your record is. You're only as good as your last fight. And I think Spivak, he truly cemented his name on another roster. I think he put his name out there for the world to see, and Dana White would be a fool not to bring this fighter back on another card. I think he earned another opportunity in the UFC. That fight blew me away. I'll tell you what, like I said, this undercard, we got a lot to talk about because this undercard was sick.
It was, and this was the first fight, first heavyweight of again. This was like a four. We had four heavyweight fights on this particular card, which is pretty unprecedented, including the main event. So this one started off, with a banger because again, there are instances where first fights of the night we have a decision, we have a unanimous, we have a split decision. Not to say those aren't great, but again, when you have a heavyweight fight and it ends in a finish, that's what, at the very least, the casuals, right? The people that are just kind of flipping into the ESPN Plus, like that's what they want, and that it equals viewers. So this couldn't have been a better way to start off the night.
Oh, I agree, man. I tell you what, this whole undercard, I was sitting at the edge of my seat. I'm going to be the voodoo of tonight's show because I'm the one that was truly, excited about this. This is honestly the first UFC in a while. I thought this card was going to be a sleeper card. I didn't really want to pay too much attention to it, but I got to admit, man, it was one of the best cards that they've had in a minute. It truly was. It was just KO
Well,
after KO after KO. I mean, what was there not to love?
Yeah, I mean, this one was
yes,
Valentine's Day
indeed.
a little bit late because this one was a fight fans Valentine, and it was a St. Valentine's Day massacre. It really was. So um, we had on the next fight. Actually, Vidu, you want to go ahead and take it away?
On this next fight, I was very shocked to see how the fight transpired. I didn't understand why Draco Rodriguez did what he did, but in this matchup, Draco Rodriguez went in there and he fought Ayman Zahabi. Ayman Zahabi is the brother to Faraz Zahabi, who you know as the coach of GSP, and many other champions. Um, I believe Draco went in there and he wasn't fighting Ayman. He was fighting in his own mind against the Zahabi name. He put too much pressure on himself. For some reason, turned into a striker, primarily striker. I didn't understand that. You are a grappler. You are a grappler who happens to strike. Stick to what brought you to the table. What do you have to say this, Mcguire? Because I have no words right now.
Well, see, I kind of feel like you do, and the great words of Chris Brennan. Where did this man get his jujitsu training? Because it evidently didn't show last night. It was like he was totally. I don't know, man. I watched the fight. I was just like, who did you get your black belt from? And I don't mean to disrespect him, but bruh, Zahabi just went out there and just laid in on him. But I couldn't get what Draco was thinking. I think he had beat himself before he even stepped in the cage. And like I said, his ground game was just way off point. I He wasn't even there, bro. I mean, I think Chris Brennan, like I said it best. Whoever taught this man jujitsu, he needs to go back and learn from him again, because last night's fight, it totally went out the window.
Yeah, unfortunately, and it was a precursor, as we were kind of talking about. It was a precursor to what was to come, where a lot of fundamentalists kind of went away from what their bread and butter was, and the ones who kind of stick to what they knew, I mean, and kind of hinting at the main event, sticking to what they knew, they would end up basically besting their opponents of the night. So, I mean, yeah, it almost felt like, abandoning principle is the underlying theme, at least to me, of this UFC Vegas 19 card.
Yeah, I gotta emulate your thoughts. I mean, 100%, bro, because there's some stunners in this undercard, and that one right there really shocked me because I didn't expect it to. I expected a better fight. I expected at least some effort. We didn't even get effort.
Hmm.
I mean, I think this gentleman needs to go back. I think, honestly, I think Rodriguez needs to go back and rethink why he is in the sport after his performance last night.
Yeah,
Yes,
and that's
most
the other
indeed.
thing. We don't know what they were going through in the weight cut or the whatever family personal stuff and what have you, because these are times where when you go into maybe like a ESPN documentary, a 30 for 30, going back at the life, and like this might have been a dark period in one's life, and that accounted for wherever they were when their performance was what it was. But I guess I hopefully that's it. I mean, hopefully they're not we're not relishing in their downfalls and personal whatever. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I mean, again, at least we're
Yeah.
an understanding of the mindset.
Yeah, most
But
definitely.
let me tell you something though. I'm sorry, Mr. McGuire. Let me tell you something, man. If you have family issues that's hindering your performance, do not step into the cage because your life's on the line. Your life is on the line, and he came close to losing his life yesterday. If that referee didn't stop the match and get in there and save his life, he fell to a two punch, a 1-2 punch. He fell
Mhm.
to a 1-2 punch. He did not even protect himself adequately. You know what I'm saying? If there's some kind of issue outside of the cage that's going to stop you from performing to the best of your ability, then do not step into the cage. Do not step into the cage because now you're going to leave the UFC liable and you're going to put a stain on our sport. You know, let that happen in boxing. Okay, people die in boxing all the time, but not our sport. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Let me let
Because
me let me
please,
jump
Mr.
in real
McGuire,
quick,
go
man.
ahead. Okay.
He looked like an amateur in a world full of champions.
Mm.
I mean, that honestly, I've been in the sport for 25 years, and I don't like to talk bad about fighters. I don't like to say negative things about fighters, but I honestly think that he had already lost the fight before he even stepped in the cage. You know, that was the sentiment I got watching him walk out. And like you said, he fell to a 1-2, the most simple combination in the sport. So if you're trying to make a name for yourself, you don't want to get knocked out at 3 minutes and 5 seconds in the first round. At least show some effort. At least pay some homage to the people that have mentored you. Give some heart. He just straight gave up right off the get.
Yeah, yeah. Which I think it's like a pretty easy pivot because that's kind of what we saw, at least a reversal in the next fight with Casey O'Neill and Shauna Dobson, because Shanna has been in the game for quite a long time. We first, here in the States came wind of her right around like her Ultimate Fighter season when she was on that particular season, but I mean, she's got a lopsided record, as we're sitting the day after her fight with Casey O'Neill. This is somebody that has been in for a while, but it just can't really get it together. And Casey O'Neill more than capitalized it, and the commentators were talking about, her family's lineage to the sport. Her dad, was one of her main coaches, and him doing, combat sports in his own right. So I mean, it was almost like a trap fall for Shanna Dobson to fall into.
Oh, what do you want to go? You want me to go? Because this is another fight that I mean,
I can jump in there.
I
Let me jump in there, man. Let me
yeah,
jump
go
in
ahead,
there.
bro.
Let me jump in there, man. So prior to this Shanna Dobson KC fight was supposed to be Chad and Jamal Emmers. Jamal Emmers,
Yeah.
right before he was supposed to come out, started getting back spasms. And if you felt what back spasms feel like, I totally understand why he didn't come out because he would have been out there without arms and legs, pretty much, and lack of mobility. He would have been hurt. He made the right decision not to be a hero. Back spasm. will totally immobilize you. So do good job, Jamal Emmers. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate that you weren't able to perform. Chaz Kelly, I hope he gets his win bonus because he was intending on winning the match so he can get that second check. So I hope he gets his win bonus. But moving on to Shan Dalton and Casey O'Neill, like you were talking about, Casey O'Neill came into this match 5-0. Her father is a long time martial artist, so understand that all long time martial artists teach their kids the basic fundamentals of the game, and she's learned quite well. Shanna Dobson, UFC veteran, did not matter. Her status in the UFC did not matter because Casey O'Neill, for some reason, I felt compelled to pick her to win because when I looked at her highlights and I looked at her record and how she wins, I knew that she would be able to handle herself in this particular matchup. The fight stood, and she handled herself very well. But she thought to herself, "Look, Shannon Dobson is a striker. Why face her where she's comfortable? Let me take her to the ground." In the beginning it was tough, but then she was able to take her to the ground, and that's where Casey O'Neill was very, very successful. She smashed her real good in the first round. They got back up. She was able to get her right back down to the ground. She smashed her some more until the referee came to save her. And it was an excellent performance. Casey O'Neill had no injuries. She can fight next week if needed. This is what we're looking for. This is the future that we've been waiting for. Well-rounded individuals, and she is over here representing Tiger Muay Thai. Shout out to Casey O'Neill.
My thoughts on Casey though was like it was a true homage, man, because that fighter last night showed consistency, showed knowledge, and went out there and just did what she was supposed to do. And you can't say that a lot about a lot of fighters. This fighter is headstrong. O'Neal is headstrong, and you know what? A lot of fighters that are sitting undefeated will always let that ego, absorb or change their walk. You don't see that on O'Neal. So what you're seeing is a transformation from somebody that's new to the sport, that is understanding what growth, understanding what development, and understanding what mentoring is. Because it surely proved last night. I mean, I got to admit, man, I didn't think the fight was going to go that quick. I didn't think that it would, end as easy as it did. But I tell you, consistency, perseverance, and being able to understand her fight IQ grew tenfold last night against Dobson. O'Neal just proved to the sport, just like the first two fighters, man, that they deserve these opportunities. They deserve to shine. See, a lot of people don't understand. 2020 was a year that a lot of fighters made excuses. They didn't want to fight. Coach Oyama and Antonio McKee, Chris Brennan said, "Hey, look, you either want to fight and do what you came to do, or you're going to give me excuses." The ones that chose to fight are getting opportunities to shine. And honestly, O'Neal got her one of the greatest opportunities to shine last night, and I think she took full advantage of it.
Ooh, couldn't have said it any better myself. And again, new to the UFC, but I mean, her family, has a long, especially in the vein of her father, have a long-standing, relationship with combat sports, and it showed where she showed wisdom and experience far beyond her years, far beyond years of somebody that does have years of experience, that has been in the UFC for dang near a decade, if not a decade already. So, again, King Casey O'Neill, you just might be.
Yeah. This next fight ain't even a fight, bro. So I don't even know why we're going to talk about it.
Okay, but I mean, let's get into it because we have Juicy J, Julian Arosa against the train that got ran through, Nate Landwehr. And I mean, this one was so I was expecting more. I actually had Landwehr, and it wasn't just because his propensity to the weird hairstyle. I was just like, that's weird. It's odd. I'm with it. And he, in his last outing in the UFC, he knocked out his opponent. He had a stellar outing the last time out. But Juicy J had something juicy cooking up for the trade. Might be in the caboose. He might have been cooking something up in the train's caboose because he knocked out Nate Landwehr like nobody's business. First round, I mean, 1 minute, I mean, like literally less than a minute into the very first round.
Bro, it takes us longer to brush our teeth than it did for him to knock him out.
Yeah, that's facts. It's facts. It's facts. So take it away, gentlemen.
I'll let you go.
Well, this was a very interesting matchup. Julian Erosa, Juicy J as they call him, he had height advantage, he had footwork advantage, he had striking advantage, I will say. And Nate had a whole lot of heart, but he was, like McGregor would say, he was stuck in the mud. Stuck in the mud. He was not moving like he should have been moving. He wasn't zigging instead of zagging. He was just getting pieced up, man. You know? I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of striking during this matchup, but when there was striking, it was efficient and effective. Erosa was able to stun him. As he stunned him, he went in for the kill. He dropped, he brought the combinations to him, and before you know it, that flying knee on his jaw, and the referee came in and saved him. Nate, being the man of heart that he is, as he's stumbling, he's telling the referee that I'm okay, but you can't even stand up straight. You can't even stand up
Yeah.
straight. The referee came in there and he did a phenomenal job saving Nate from himself. What do you think, Mr. Mcguire?
Oh, absolutely. And man, I don't mean to be clowning on this fight, but it's like I really mean it. You know what? You take longer to brush your teeth than this fight took. If you're not even going to show up for a fight, and I honestly I like Nate. I think Nate has talent. I don't know what was in the back of his mind, but I have to agree with you. He was in no condition to continue. It was an excellent ref stoppage. Uh, but it's like, how do you get knocked out in 56 seconds? I mean, especially with the credentials that Nate has.
Yes.
It's just it blew my mind because it's like going back to the other fights. It's like, did you even really want to be there? Were you just collecting a check,
I,
or did you really want to step up and show the world? To me, he was just collecting a check, bro. I mean,
I have
and
an
I don't mean
argument.
it. Go
I
ahead,
have
bro.
an argument for you. I have an argument for you. What you saw in this particular matchup is the difference between the old school versus the new school. Julian Erosa, Juicy J, has learned the future of striking. He has learned that uh, 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 free flow is the next level in this game. While Nate, the train, is still stuck in flow state, Julian is able to advance above that and bring the next level of striking. He's flying through the air to finish the fight, flying through the air. Not many people from the old days are able to do this, and he brought that next level of striking to the table. And Nate didn't know what to do with it. That's why it seemed like he was stuck in the mud. The footwork that Julian brought to the table, he couldn't adjust to it. He couldn't adjust. It was like the moving target. He couldn't zero in on the moving target. Even though he didn't do much, he did everything, Juicy J. Even though he didn't throw a whole lot of strike, he threw so many strikes without throwing it. When you cannot zero in on your opponent and understand where he's going to be in the next instant, then that's where you get that deer in the headlight, hit deer in the headlight type feel, and fall victim to the counterattack of Julian Erosa, and fall DT.
No,
You know,
100%. And I think Don McGuire said it. Well, it's funny because you were like, oh, well, in terms of Julian Erosa, right? I mean, what he showed was, I mean, technical ability, striking ability that is I mean, next level. Again, it's Voodoo. You said it best. It's the new school versus the old school, and nothing against the old school, but again, there's a new game in town, and again, Juicy J is definitely playing that game. And you said it best, Don. In the instance of Nate Landwehr, it seemed like there was something in the back of his mind. Well, Juicy J made sure that his mind stayed back where it was because he knocked it into next week. So he might be there. So we might find Nate Landwehr somewhere in next week because that's where he's at. So when he's ready to come to this deal, we'll welcome him back, but it might not be the most tolerable. I don't know.
I kind of have to agree with you, bro. And my final thought is, I think there was a little bit more of a underlying situation because Nate Landwehr doesn't show up like this, man. And so I'm having in the back of my head, do you think, was it a harsh cut? Was it more of a brutal cut than his average cut? What was perplexing in his mind? I'm not trying to make excuses for Nate whatsoever, but you can't just say, okay, well, like I did, and I'll own up to it. I said he got knocked out faster than it takes for me to brush my teeth, which is fact. But what were the underlying conditions? I think weight cut. I think something was perplexing in the back of his thought because he usually shows up a different warrior. He usually shows up a much more skilled striker, a much more skilled fighter, and none of that was evident or present last night.
Most definitely. Most
Yeah.
definitely. I totally agree. None of it was present. None of it was present. Primarily because if we look at the last fight he was in, he fought what's that fella's name? In his last fight. It was a
Nate
bloody
Landwehr.
match.
Yeah, and he
Yeah.
came away
Who
with
was it last?
the win. It was Darren Elkins.
He came
yeah.
away with the win. Elkins. See, they're
Yeah.
similar type fighters. You know what I mean? They like to stand and bang. You know what I mean? So he shines in that style of fighting when they stand and bang. Julian Erosa is not that guy. He's one of them pretty boys. He don't like to get hit. You can tell by the way he approached that fight. He's always moving left and moving right. The lateral was plentiful. Lots of lateral movement from back east and west, man. And if you can't target your opponent, you know what I mean? Ain't gonna be no hitting him. He's gonna be hitting you, and he's gonna be gone before you can hit him back.
Yeah.
I just, like I said, I just think there was an underlying circumstance leading into this fight because Nate's a much better fighter, and coming off that Elkin fight, I mean, it's like something transpired. It's up to him where his next step is going to be, but pulling out a performance like he did last night, bro, he's got people looking at him a whole lot different. His stock just went down. His fight IQ looked like it dropped about 30 points. And that's not a good look. That's not a good look at all, homie.
No. But speaking of people who looked good last night, leave it to none other than a former Combate Americas veteran, one sexy Mexi, John Castaneda, and his win over, veteran. WEC veteran Eddie Wineland. Eddie Wineland is probably in that echelon of people, greatest fighters who ever lived that haven't won a UFC title. And Eddie Wineland, along with Alistair Overeem and what have you, even though Overeem attained championship gold in other promotions, but he's, the UFC gold was the most important to him, right? So I think Eddie Wineland is right there. One of the greatest, one of the most phenomenal fighter, one of the most exciting fighters there were to watch, but he fell to Sexy Mexi, who in his first, much like his Combate Americas counterpart, Gustavo Lopez, well, he had a rough go his first time. He got a short notice fight. It was a rough go for him. Didn't lose that. Ended up losing his first entry into the UFC, much like Gustavo Lopez. But much like Gustavo Lopez, turned it around. And my goodness, this win over Eddie Wineland, to me, I think is one of those, kind of like we can point back to this time in John Castaneda's life and career and go like, this was it. This was like the first big name that Castaneda has had, essentially, on his trophy case. That he can be like, okay, you could have thought my career was garbage beforehand. Not to say that anybody was, but here is somebody that and what have you, and I just knocked him out. Do you like me now? First round knockout of Eddie Wineland.
This went a little bit longer than most of the first 3, 4 fights. So, but I kind of like this fight though. Honestly, I really did, because it wasn't like it was a lopsided fight. It wasn't like it totally went one way, and see, that's what I like about fighting. You go in there, you swing, you do what you got to do, you handle your business, and that's what both of these warriors did. Unfortunately, Wineland come up on the short end of the stick, and hey, it is what it is. It's a bad night at the office, but I don't think you could take away anything from any one of these fighters. I really don't. Even though it was a first round stoppage, they both went in there, they gave it their heart, and I'm not going to disrespect either one of them, because you know what? You never know whose fight it's going to be until they close the cage door. And whoever wants it more is going to get it. And, they both went in there. They were trying to do what they had to do. Unfortunately, Eddie came up short, and I think that's the best way to put it, because I don't think you could take anything away from either one of these fighters, win or lose. I think it was just a situation that played out.
Yes, I'm gonna have to agree with you, Mr. Mcguire, because Eddie Wineland went in there with intent to win this match. It's been a while since he's won a match, and he was intending on winning. Now, how do I know that he was intending on winning? Because his hands were pretty low. Why were his hands pretty low? Because we know Sexy Mexi, he's got great wrestling. He's gonna come in there, and when the opportunity's there, he's gonna shoot, he's gonna take you down, he's gonna cut you up with elbows and smash you into the ground. That's what he does. So Mr. Wineland was like, okay. All I need to do is keep you standing. If I keep you standing, you're going to take these hands. We know Eddie Wineland's got some of the best hands, some of the best boxing in UFC history. I mean, he's a former WEC champion. You know what I mean? Those hands are on point. But unfortunately for him, when we're talking about the art of mixed martial arts, we have to break the whole pie into thirds. Okay? The first third is boxing. The second third is kicking. And the last one is the ground game. Mr. Wineland didn't do that. He came in here with the intent to stop the takedown, which is 20% wrestling takedown. Everything else he invested in boxing. I mean, he was doing what he was doing. He was touching Mr. Castaneda. He was doing what he was doing, but his hands were so low that all Castaneda had to do was initiate him, get him to attack. And as soon as he was done throwing his hand combination, he just throws his overhand over the top or his hook over the top. Sooner or later, he was able to clip Mr. Eddie Wineland. And once he clipped him, there was no recovery. He jumped on him right away and threw the 1-2s, 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 1-2s until the referee went in there and stopped the match. And another well-done job by the referee in saving Mr. Eddie Wineland.
I have to agree.
Yeah, and Eddie, like you guys both said, he looked great. He looked great, but it just
wasn't there.
It wasn't there. It wasn't there. So we're not at all saying Eddie, his time in the sun is over, but it's, there might be more fights behind him than there are in front of him for sure.
I have to agree with that. I think he needs to take a little bit of time off and reflect and rethink and revisit what made him. I love these kind of topics, because we can add and we can touch on other fighters. You look at Justine Kish; she went on a 3-fight skid, and she was like, "What's wrong? What's missing from my career?" And I think Eddie needs to do this too, because Justine said, I need to go back to what made me.
Yeah.
So she went back to Thailand. She went back to Black House MMA. She went back to Julio Estrada's gym. And she's defined herself. She found who she was meant to be and what she needs to bring to the sport. And I think Eddie truly needs to do the same thing. I mean, sometimes fighters get this fixated aspect of themselves and they don't truly understand that they've taken a step backwards. See, and I think that's a situation with Eddie. And I think that what he needs to do is take some time off, go back to his roots, go back to his mentoring, and find the knowledge that he needs to make this next step forward.
No,
Most def,
100%.
most definitely, most
And
definitely.
Nate Wren of Podium Sports, shout out to Nate Wren and Podium Sports, as the great Ken Shamrock once said, you can give and give and give. It's never enough for some fans, right? And in the instance of uh, of one Eddie Wineland, and it's a tough one too, right? Because he was WEC champion at a time. It's almost like the Dr. J versus Michael Jordan, kind of scenario where obviously Dr. J was a pioneer in many instances, right? Essentially gave birth to the thought of what a young Michael Jordan could do amongst any others, right? But there wasn't a lot of money. We've heard famously that, Dr. J, Julius Irving would have to, pawn and auction off his gear and, ABA, championship rings just because there wasn't a lot of money at that time, right? And I think fighters, especially, it's a rough one because Eddie Wineland still can go and compete with some of the best in the world today, right? But he was a champion of a promotion that you might have won like less than your UFC performance bonuses right now. And again, UFC performance bonuses aren't that great compared to what they were paying out pre the Reebok deal. But it's a rough one because like I can compete, I'm still fit, I can get rounds with any of the younger kids in my class, in my gym, all that jazz. But when it gets to that top echelon, the things that you can do kind of get slimmer and slimmer. And especially it's a rough one where your fight IQ might go up, with the amount of experience that you could do, because there's no constituting or no substituting experience. But as the IQ goes up, what you can do and your body's limitations go down because you're another 6 months older, 12 years older, a lot more damages accrue in terms of, that thing that you bumped and everything like that. It used to heal when, 10 years ago, like nothing. And now now you've got, chipped bone spurs in your elbow, so it's a rough one.
Yeah, that's true and all. That's true and all. But at the same time, all fighters must understand one thing that is constant. The game is changing every second. Mixed martial art is comparable to technology. Every computer is being improved weekly. Every week you're getting an update. You're getting an update every week. And if you don't upgrade your computer, it won't be able to do some type of performance. You know what I mean? At some point, it won't be able to do it. Why? Because you did not upgrade your software. Okay? Mixed martial art is the same way, man. Right now, the new thing, it's been around, but people weren't doing it. It's a calf kick. If everyone isn't throwing the calf kick right now, I don't know what you're doing something wrong. The calf kick has been proven to be highly effective. Invest significant amount of time into your kicking game. I mean, Mr. Wineland, I love Mr. Wineland. You know what I mean? I've been following him since before WEC. I'm 43 years old. I've been following him for many, many years. I'm a big fan. But if you cannot get your kicking, I'm throwing kicks like that. And I'm 43. Why is he not? He's at the highest level. I'm not at the highest level. And I'm investing time into this kick. Why is he not investing time into this kick? This is the question. You got to upgrade your software if you are going to compete with these youngsters like Mr. Castaneda. Castaneda is investing a lot of time into these kicks, trying to do spin shit, as they say. Why aren't you doing spin shit as well?
Yeah,
That's
and
the
you
question.
bring up a tremendous point. You bring up a tremendous point because you go to Gabriel Green the week prior and the calf kicks. I mean, dude was coming off a 3 year hiatus of fighting, coming off a loss with Alex Rodriguez, went to the calf kick. I mean, the only thing Gabe Green was hard on himself about was he had the opportunity to finish and didn't finish the fight. But it proves right there the best way to chop down a tree is at its base. And Gabe Green proved it in his fight. I just wish we would have seen it, from Eddie Wineland. I just wish we would see more profound reflections of the past fighter, because let's face it, it's like you said, you know, these wrestlers are coming into the sport, and a lot of these old time fighters think that all they need is jujitsu. The sport is now a 360. You need every bit of aspect of training to compete with these new and up and coming warriors. And unless you update yourself, like you said, you're not going to be able to hang with the big boys.
No, 100%, 100%. So I hope everything will kind of come together for Eddie Wineland, whether it be continuing the sport, not whatever, upgrading his software, whatever it is. We want Eddie Wineland to win. So shout out to him and what he's given to the sport already, because I think there wouldn't be John Castaneda's if there wasn't Eddie Wineland. So again, shout out to Eddie Wineland and shout out to John Castaneda, because that was a very, very big win. And just a little bit of asterisks, because you did mention Gabe Green and Daniel Rodriguez on, and you interviewed Gabe Green just this past week, so go ahead and check that out. But also, Voodoo and I, we were our heart was broken when that happened. That first fight with Gabe Green happened, because he was going up against, again, a guy that we're friends with, the guy that, I mean, for me, the first fighter that I ever did anything with in terms of like promo videos along with Bosun Wang was Daniel Rodriguez. And the fact that those are two local guys that we wanted them to get their shot, and they get their shot against each other, it broke my heart. It broke Voodoo's heart. So shout out to those gentlemen as well. But again, good to know that Gabe is back in the winning ways. That's a former CXF, the California Extreme Fighting uh, champion. That's the precursor for Lights Out MMA under Sean Merriman, George Bostamajian, and Steve Bash. So shout out to all of those involved. Which I gotta mention, we have to shout out another gentleman, and much like you were talking about the original polar bear being Paul Varlins, well, guess what? For Voodoo and I, there can only be one Flash, and there might have been other Flashes before the person that I'm about to mention, but our Flash is Terrion Flashware, much like Gabe Green, a former CXF champion. So, but we're going to give Jared Gordon his due, because this particular Flash got a unanimous decision over the Colombian warrior, Danny Chavez. And guys, this one was... I mean, this was a decision, and a lot of finishes. This is one of the few decisions that happened on this card. Your guys' thoughts?
Can I jump in first here? Well, you know what? I've known Jared Gordon for a long time. I've interviewed Jared Gordon for many, many years. I've shot Jared Gordon, and even though he got the W, I was disappointed. You go back to when he won the world title at CFFC, and a tremendous young man, a warrior on the right path to growth. And I'm not saying anything to take away from his performance, not in any manner. But I know Jared Gordon. I know what Flash is capable of. He did not. He came in at 70% last night. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm going to tell the truth. If I know him, I mean, he'll probably call me later and yell at me, but it's all good, because I don't think I don't think he showed up and gave 100. I really don't. I mean, even though he came out with a W, I was disappointed in his performance.
Yeah, I have to second that. It seemed that Mr. Gordon wasn't quite sure of himself in that first round.
Yeah.
He didn't bring the heat that he brought in the second and third. If he brought the same heat in the beginning, from the very beginning, he would have finished this fight no later than the third round, of course. Uh, uh, he faced Danny Chavez and fought Danny Chavez the way Danny Chavez fights. And he was like, hey, actually, by the second round, he thought to himself, actually, I can do this better than you. And then he started picking up his tempo. And then he upped the wrestling. And then he started smashing him on the ground. But he did this a little bit too late. 5 minutes too late. If he would have started this immediately, then perhaps he would have gotten the finish that you were expecting, Mr. Mcguire.
Yeah. And see, that's the difference part, with me, and because a lot of these fighters we talk about, I've shot. A lot of these fighters we talk about, I've interviewed, and I know in life. But just because I know you don't mean I'm gonna give you my truest thoughts. And that wasn't the Jared Gordon that I'm used to seeing. It was a disappointment for me. I just think that he has a lot more capabilities and a lot more abilities than he gives himself credit for. I think he just went out there and did what he had to do to win the fight. But you know what? That doesn't impress anybody. You got to go in there and you got to show the boss that you want to be there. And I don't think he did that last night. I was disappointed in his performance. Like I said, even though he came out with a W, I was disappointed. I was truly disappointed.
Yeah. He didn't go in there. He didn't go in there and let Mr. Danny Chavez know that he is number 49 in this ranking, and Chavez is 82. He didn't make that clear. He made it seem like he was 80 and Chavez was 82, but he was 49. He wasn't dominant enough because he's been in the UFC. He's done this. He's been, like you said, he's been a champion in another federation. He didn't go in there and show Danny Garcia exactly what a champion fights like. And hopefully, in his next matchup, he's able to step it up and perform to your liking.
Yeah, I think he will. It's been kind of a hard walk for him because I think he's struggling with life identity crisis and trying to find out where he is spiritually. And a lot of people don't realize that affects your performance in the cage. And he's transitioned to Muslim, and he's trying to find his soul, and he's trying to figure out but you know what? He's a tremendous young man in his walk. When I had him on when he won the world title in CFFC, he said, I don't want to talk about my world title. Ask me where I was 18 months ago. He was in rehab, a recovering heroin and crack addict. And see, what inspires me about Jared Gordon is because he's proved that not only can you climb up for the bottom of the barrel to the top, but you can also continue and live your dream. And that's what he's done in the UFC. I just hope he finds that same inspiration that got him there. I hope he finds it and gravitates towards it, because he could become a world champion in the UFC if he finds that step, that stride, that motivation.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. So I just hope that Jared figures whatever he needs to figure out, as well as everyone, because that's, fighter almost last, person first. So if somebody that has struggled with issues, chemical dependency issues and what have you, that's a hard thing to go through. So my heart goes out to him and his family, because it's not just you that goes it alone, it's everyone around you. So again, hope that it gets worked out, but yeah, this is it's a win, but it's a somber win, which again, a precursor of what was to come, because we had Tom Aspinall against former UFC heavyweight champion, the Pitbull, Andrei Arlovsky. And I felt this way, especially after seeing what happened to Alistair Overeem not too long ago, is the old guard. Voodoo, you spoke about upgrading software, right? And I think this is it. This is the final upgrade for Andrei Arlovsky. Yes, he's changed gyms. He went from his longtime gym out in Albuquerque with Jackson Winklejohn, right? And now is at American Top Team and has been there for a bit of time. But again, the amounts of damage that were accrued. I mean, his fights in Bodog. There's a reason why he was a former UFC champion at the heavyweight division, and especially for heavyweights, right? That is, you talk about high risk, high reward. No matter what, you could be heavyweight lethweight, you could be heavyweight boxing, Muay Thai, whatever. Again, these are bets. These are clubs, like clubs that you would get from your car. The tire iron coming at you full on in the way of the force of a fist, a force of a forearm, elbows, knees, legs, jiu-jitsu twerking. It's so crazy. And especially when you've got heavyweights now that can do submissions as well as and with such fierceness as like a flyweight who's again literally almost 100 pounds, over 100 pounds less. And I think we saw it in the Pitbull versus Arlovsky deal. We found out through social media from the Pitbull himself that something happened and his knee, something in his leg, just kind of gave out, and that is what essentially ended up him being in a precarious position of where him getting finished. But with that all being said, Aspinall is a star on the rise. We've seen his other instances in the UFC, his entry to the organization. So Aspinall is on the rise, and I'm sad to say, much like the previously mentioned Alistair Overeem, this might be it for the Pitbull.
I'll go ahead and start, man. You know what? He can make the excuse about his knee. He got beat on the ground. I mean, he got beat on the ground, bro. Let's face it. He came out swinging. He didn't expect Aspinall to hang with him, and what he got was a very, you know, intelligent fighter that understood what was going to come at him. He was ducking, he was pulling back when he needed to, and I don't think, to be quite honest with you, I don't think Arlovsky thought that Aspinall had that much power. You know, Aspinall even shocked me, bro. When they stood for the first minute, and just banged. I got to admit, I didn't think Aspinall had that much power. I didn't think he was going to crack Arlovsky like that, bro. It was like, yo, what's up with this? That's when the fight really got, fight night really got interesting for me because it was like, okay, here we go. We got a former champion and we got this young buck, and this young buck is taking him to school, and he did it on his feet. So Arlovsky can make all the excuses about his leg, whatever he wants. He got his ass beat on the ground. I mean, he's standing up, bro. So, take that to somebody who wants to hear it. I got 50 cents. Call somebody who cares. You got schooled, homie.
Hey. In terms of preparation for this particular matchup, I believe his corner prepared him well enough, but they were missing one piece. Now, in regards to striking, Aspinall had all the speed. He had the lateral movement. He had the dynamic striking. He had the knees. He had the elbows. He had all that. But Arlovsky, surprisingly, he did bring his kickboxing game. I was surprised to see him throwing head kicks, leg kicks, body kicks. He was throwing these effective kicks, and he was doing them at the right time. He was stunned a bit and swarmed on the fence. He covered himself really well. He protected his brain. So Aspinall had to go to the body multiple times. And I love the fact that the referee did not jump in there and stop the fight. He was protecting himself intelligently, so please let it proceed. And that's exactly what happened. I believe Arlovsky was able to shock the young Aspinall by not going out to the shot that he hit him with. Yeah, he took him into the 6-minute round. He took him further than anyone in his entire career has ever taken him, which is past the 3-minute mark. You know what I mean? So they go to the corner, they come back for the next match for the second round, so they go on again. Orlovsky's hanging with him. He's not better than him, but he's keeping Aspinall understanding that there is a danger factor here, and if you slip up, I will take away your undefeated streak, your shine. I will take it away in a heartbeat. So Aspinall was like, "Oh hell no, forget that. I'm not gonna risk any more chances of getting possibly caught by an old man." So he went for that double leg and stuck that forehead right in his chest. That good old wrestling. Stuck it right in his chest, drove him straight to the fence. I thought he broke that fence. The way Orlovsky hit that fence, you could see in his eyes like, "Oh my God, I had no idea you could do that." And he got stuck in that mode of, "I have no idea you can do that." The young man stuck his left arm underneath, gable grip, and that was all she wrote.
But I think there's a part of the fight, and I'm sorry, Woods. I think there's a part of the fight that nobody's even paid attention to. You're looking at a former world champion. Look how much of the fight Arlovsky had his back up against the cage. I mean, think about it. Aspinall had dominance. He showed dominance. I mean, yeah, Arlovsky did what he had to do, but he still ultimately lost the fight. But you tell me that he came with his A game. Look at how much time Aspinall had him up against the cage. I mean, that should have never been. That's what cost Arlovsky the fight. He was being controlled and dominated for 70 to 80% of the fight up against the cage. I mean, really, he had no answer. He had no understanding of how to get off that cage. He'd flip Aspinall around. Aspinall would throw his ass right back up against the cage. I mean, and standing toe-to-toe with each other and swinging, Aspinall came out ahead every situation. I mean, and like I said, I didn't think Aspinall had that kind of power, but when he split Arlovsky's eyebrow, bruh, I was like, that was sweet, bro. I mean, I gotta admit, Aspinall gained a new fan last night.
That's
we totally picked Mr. Aspinall to win this particular matchup. We picked him to win because he's young, he's dynamic. He has the ability to enter free flow state, as he showed. He felt he needed to take Arlovsky out of his game by taking him to the ground. He did that. He initiated the choke. Boom. And then in the post interview, Mr. Aspinall also hinted to the fact that earlier in that matchup, Arlovsky hit him with a good shot to the eye that blurred his vision, which is another reason why he was more willing to initiate the takedown and change the direction of the fight to where he's more comfortable. If you take Mr. Arlovsky to the ground, those heavy shots and those heavy kicks will not be happening anymore. And he gambled, and it worked out in his favor.
No, 1,000%, 1,000%. And now that I never thought that a guy like Tom Aspinall would take out a pit bull, right? And so to it, I also did think, if you paired a Russian sniper and Megatron, I actually thought the Russian sniper would win, but that wasn't the case because we had Megatron Phil Haas against the Russian sniper Nasruddin Imavov, and I mean the Russian sniper fell to Megatron essentially.
Go ahead,
You want to take it, Mr. Mcguire? Oh, I'll take it.
Nah,
Don't worry. I'll take it.
You got this, bro. You got this. All you.
I'll take this one because Nasruddin, he really disappointed me in this particular matchup. Yes, Megatron is a superior wrestler. Yes, he is. But if you are finishing this match and you are not exhausted, you know what I mean? What did Vince Lombardi say? We would know we were victorious when we get tired laying on the ground on a football field, exhausted. He was not exhausted. He had an opportunity to go in there and take this match in the last 2 minutes, and he did not do that. He let Mr. Phil Hawks hold him for entire 2 minutes and put him on the fence, and then he's doing this, putting his hands up like he's holding me. So what if he's holding you, man? He's doing what he has to do. He's completely exhausted. He's at your mercy. You have at least 60% more in your gas tank than he does, and you did not dump your gas tank on top of him. You did not do what you were supposed to do. You let that fight slip away from you. Yes, Mr. Hawk beat you in the first round with excellent college level wrestling. Yes, Mr. Hawk beat you in the second round with excellent college wrestling. In the third round, he was tired. He was tired. You were kind of tired, but you were not as tired as him, Mr. Nasiruddin Imanov. You did not do what you were supposed to do. He wanted to click. You should not have clicked. You should have done everything in your power to separate from him and light his ass up like the sniper you are. And you did not do that. You were okay with getting hugged. He was hugging you and you stood there and you allowed it. You allowed it. You did not let your sniper skills go to work. And that's why you lost that. He could have stolen that match in the last 30 seconds and he did not do that. And that was a fight that I hated the most on this particular night.
Yeah, I really don't want to get too deep into it because Imamov got impregnated last. He got impregnated. I mean, I'm just gonna say it like it is. I mean, it's like, bruh, if you want to fight, show up. If you don't want to fight, stay home. You know, I mean, I'm not taking nothing away from Philip Haas because he did what he had to do. You know, a lot of people ridicule DC about his fighting style, but you know what? They're there to get a W. They're there to get a win. And if it takes laying on you the whole fight, and that's their style, hey, I'm not gonna hate on you. I'm not gonna hate on you. But the thing of it is, Nasruddin got impregnated last night. It's just like, bruh, come on. You need to do something, bro. I mean, I've seen better fighters in Titan. I've seen better fighters in what do you want to call that? Tough Enough. You know, that performance was pathetic. I mean, it's like, see, people don't understand when Mr. Dana White is looking at you. I don't care if you lose, but you better give it 100%. Don't go in there and lay and pray. I mean, and that's what he did. I mean, so you're not going to get the boss's attention doing something like that. I mean, this is a fight I don't even really want to talk about because it ain't worthy even of talking about. I mean, really, that card should have been. I've seen Invicta fights better than that, bro.
Oh, 100%. Invicta always, again, Invicta, I mean, outside, that's probably my favorite fight promotion. That's it, because I think in many ways, even after, the Chris Cyborgs, the Gina Carano's, and a lot of people don't even know that Gina Carano did MMA, which I think is weird. Like, that's almost like saying didn't know The Rock did wrestling. It's weird, but my son literally said that. So it's weird to me. But I mean, with that all being said, with Chris Cyborg, with Ronda Rousey, all of these, Amanda Nunes, the dominance of her, she's not just a dominant woman, she's not just a dominant female, she's a dominant fighter. She's one of the best in the world, and at the top echelon to claim two of the sport's most prestigious titles at the same time. It's unprecedented, right? But even after all of that, the female fighters are in many ways like what the male fighters were, 20 some odd years ago, right? So I think there's still, I guess, to borrow Impact Wrestling's moniker, they're still bound for glory, so to speak. So that's why Invicta is one of my favorite promotions, because the finishing rate, whether it be submission, whether it be, knockouts, they're card per card against the UFC, against one championship, against a lot of other promotion. They have a bigger finishing rate than a lot of the other promotions, but they don't get their just due. So
no,
I'm just saying.
Can I jump back just a second? Because there's one thing that a lot of people don't realize about me. Okay, out of 42 Invicta shows, I've shot 34 of them. So I've been there for Carano. I've been there for Cyborg. I've been there for Evanger. I've been there for every female that's ever been in the UFC. I've shot their career. So, it's an honor and a privilege to have been a part of Invicta for so many years and be a part of the promotion. Because I'll tell you what, some of these women bring it to the sport. But you bring up Chris Cyborg, and I know this is a fight card that's coming up, and this is just totally off the cuff and something I got to get out my chest. First and foremost, I don't think in any way that Pam Bam Sorensen deserves a shot with Cyborg, but I don't even think the Megan Anderson fight should even happen. I honestly think that Cyborg is just going to take her to church 3 times a week on Sunday. I mean, there's nobody of Chris Cyborg's caliber anymore. Other than Amanda Nunes, there's nobody. But I just want to throw my 2 bits on there because this next fight, bro, my
Let's go.
goodness, my
Let's
goodness,
go. Which I
yeah.
mean, before we get into it, Nate Wren of Podium Sports, he wants to know, hey, did I see Bloodsport yesterday? Of course I did. Of course I did. And I'm not spoiling anything. And this, not only is it the type of wrestling that I like. I mean, it's. I said it on Rafa Esparza's kind of live show. The watch along. That for anybody that doesn't know Bloodsport, think EBI Combat Jiu-Jitsu, right? Eddie Bravo's Combat Jiu-Jitsu with slams, and that's what you're getting in terms of Bloodsport. So yes, I did, and I cannot wait because we will finally get former WWE champion, former AEW champion, Jon Moxley against former Metamoris grappling champion, black belt in Jiu-Jitsu, Carl Gotch and Antonio Inoki trained, former King of Pancrase, former UFC champion, former IWGP in Japan champion, Josh the War Master Barnett. Moxley Barnett, that is finally going to happen, and I can't wait. So, again, check that out on Bloodsport.watch or on Fight TV, because you can stream them both. If you're in Florida and can buy tickets, and it's safe to do so, go ahead and do that. So there you go, good sir. But
Hey, let me add one more thing, man. Hey, Mr. Nate Brand, I love your not smiling. Yeah, I love what you bring to the game, bro. But homie, give credit where credit is due, bro. I ain't been smiling for 25 years. You could go and look.
Yeah.
There's only two pictures in my whole career that I ain't never smiled. I don't blame you for taking the game because it's all love, bro. But remember where it originated from.
oh, okay, I like it. Yeah, man. You too. I mean, if you can't, Jim Cornette said, if you can't work your gimmick, you can't work, and I think that's it. So more to you in your guys' gimmick. So shout out to both of you. But shout out to one Chris Dawkins, because I thought this was going to be in this boa constrictor Alexei Olenek versus Chris Dawkins. I mean, this would have been like Olenek's 60th victory? 60th victory. Like, how crazy is that? 60th victory. I think the only person that tops that in terms of MMA wins is none other than Dan Severn, right?
Right?
I think he's got the most, right, MMA wins into the triple digits. That's not even like losses, but like just wins alone into the triple digits, like 111, right? But I thought, especially as good as Alexei Olenek has been, and I mean, he's the boa constrictor for a reason, right? So I thought this was going to be, and I put it in the chat, I said it on Thursday on our preview show, like, this is going to end Alexei Olenek. That's going to be a submission. That's going to be whatever, right? Just some kind of weird anaconda, whatever, and I was wrong. And I think Chris Dawkins might have heard me, and he wanted to prove me wrong because he, knocked out Alexei Olenek. I think Olenek's walkout, and them talking about, him wanting to get his 60th win, him kissing his wife and what have you. And that's got to be a weird one, right? I almost say that with, like, I think Sam Alvey's wife also is his corner person, right? That's got to be a weird one where your spouse, right? Your spouse is getting, your protector, right? A protector that's also a fighter, right? Is getting the shit kicked out of him right in front of you. I don't know what the fuck My wife would probably laugh, but at me, it's like you fucking probably did some dumb shit to fucking get your ass knocked out. So, don't get into fights.
I
Pacifism.
can't believe you brought up Smiling Sam Elvey. Uh, that's a
But
guy
that's
that,
it. His wife,
hey,
who was also on the, I mean, not the Ultimate Fighter, but America's Next Top Model. Like that.
yeah,
That is facts, right? And his,
yeah, but
uh,
he's getting ready to face Zach Cummings, and you know, Zach Cummings is gonna knock some of them chicklets out. He ain't gonna be smiling too long because Zach Cummings, I'll tell you, he's one of the most underrated fighters in the UFC, sitting at 27-6. And Smiling Sam Alvey's been around for a long time. He brings it, but he's gonna be a couple teeth shy next time he smiles after facing Mr. Zach Cummings, bro.
well, I love that you mention like teeth, because I think I'm pretty amazed that Alexei Olnik after this knockout
Still have some.
basically kept all of his teeth. I mean, maybe he was a patient of Isaac Yankem DDS, or hell, Dr. Britt Baker of AEW, who wrestles and is I almost wanted to say a dentician. I don't think that's a word, but orthodontist or some odd, right? So maybe Alexei Olnik went to Dr. Britt Baker, on his way to Vegas because his teeth being kept in, or maybe, heck, maybe he has a mouth guard from Bite Me Mouth Guards, a sponsor of Don Mcguire's show for the Fighter's Voice, and the Bite Me Mouth Guards kept it all in place. So I don't know what it was, but whatever reason, the fact that, I mean, Olenik's head as well as his teeth stayed on his body, I don't know how that happened because Dawkins brought everything, everything,
Yeah.
and just, I mean, like standing KO, standing KO.
He brought the Kenny Rogers, bro. Know when to hold him, know when to fold him.
I was
And
about to say chicken. Ooh, chicken. Kenny Rogers Roasters. Shout out.
uh,
Man,
I mean,
man.
let's face it. He ended Olenik's career last night. I mean, I don't see how Olenik comes back.
Yes.
I don't. I really don't.
Mm-mm.
And the sad part about it is Olenik has brought plenty of tremendous fights to the sport, plenty. But you know what? There comes a point in a time when you need to cut the gloves off, put them in the center of the octagon, and be blessed for what you created. And I think that should have occurred last night.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Because Mr. Olenek went in that match. He did not get one offensive strike in. All he did was absorb some 100 shots from Officer Chris Dawkins. I totally forgot about this guy, man. He has been in the UFC starching folks. This picture here does not do him justice because he does not look like this anymore. He's lost some 40 pounds after this picture was taken, man. He's so much lighter. He's a big fella. He's so much lighter, and his movement is phenomenal. His boxing is great. Now, when we're talking about Mr. Aspinall, these are matchups we want to make. When we're talking about Sergey Spivak, these are matchups we want to see. You know what I mean? These young bucks, we want to see them earn their way to the top. Now, we have Mr. Dawkins, he should be taking that 10th place because Mr. Olenek does not belong in the top 10 at all with these
No.
murderers. He does not belong in the top 50. I'm sorry. Because all you have to do is move your feet and you can easily defeat this man. This man has done mixed martial arts a great service, but I'm afraid that his software is outdated and grappling or whatever style he brings to the table is not sufficient anymore in that heavyweight division. The next time he goes back in there, if he goes back, I wouldn't advise it. If I was a UFC upper echelon, whatever you want to call it, I will give this man a severance check and send him on his way because he does not belong in the cage anymore. Not at this level. Not at this level. Not even as an amateur, man. I don't believe he's ready to fight anymore at this level. He should just, like you said, cut those gloves off and put him in the middle of that cage and thank everyone for the years of being his fan and he should just walk off into the sunset. This man has nothing else to prove, man. Unless he
No,
wants to die in that cage. That's all that's left for him.
exactly. I don't think he could have said it any better, you know. And I mean, I've seen it one too many times where these older fighters think that they can continue to hang with up and coming talent in the sport. Of course, some of them are capable,
Yeah.
but Olenek's not. You know, it's time to walk away with your head held high. It truly is. And I honestly, I'm surprised he didn't retire last night. I mean, to be quite honest with you, it would have been a better service to himself to walk out with his head held high. Because the next time he steps back in the cage, if he even gets another opportunity, he's dude, he's gonna get hurt.
Yeah. No, 100%.
He's a
100%.
flying knee waiting to happen.
Oh,
He
yeah.
is a flying knee waiting to happen. Olenek is a flying knee waiting to happen. A spinning elbow that would decapitate him waiting to happen. That's what's gonna happen to this guy. That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
This next fight, though, whoo, baby,
Well,
that's some
speaking
bread and butter.
now, you say bread and butter, Don, but I'm going to borrow from Voodoo Maximus here because this is the top enchilada of what fights should be. Because we had Derek Minner against Boston Strong Charles Rosa, and of course, like I had Minner for the win, right? But I forgot how tough Charles Rosa is. I mean, he's Boston Strong. That is a rallying cry, especially after the Boston Marathon bombings and what have you. So that is a rally cry. But this is something that ultimately defines Charles Rosa as a person because he is tough. He is a great grappler, as he showed last night. Right? There are a lot of positions where he should have done worse, right? A fighter of his caliber should have done worse, but he kind of gritted it down, and got into some exchanges where it was weird for both of them, both Minner and Rosa. But again, it was Derek Minner who essentially beat out Boston Strong. So your guys' take.
Oh man, I'll go first, man. I'm a Derek Minner fan, but Rosa got on like a $2 whore on payday. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, bro. I mean, I'm just being straight real. I mean, somebody with that jujitsu caliber got schooled, bro. But you got to look who's behind Derek Minner. James Krause, one of the greatest coaches that's up and coming in the sport today. When you got that type of knowledge, why do you think Derek Minner went from Nebraska to Kansas City? Because right now everybody's gravitating to Kansas City. And why? It's because the prowess of James Krause, Joe Wooster, Zach Cummings, and the stable of UFC fighters that they got there. But James Krause, whether I like him in his walk, whether I like him in the sport, has nothing to do with it. As far as being a coach, that man is one of the top coaches in this industry, and he's proven it time and time again. You can't look at another young coach that's 32, 33 years old and has this many caliber fighters in the UFC. And no disrespect to Rosa, but Minner owned him, bruh. I mean, we all see fights different, okay? But Rosa's supposed to have this jujitsu. He's supposed to be great on the ground. What did he do? Get Minner in a couple armbar submissions, one Kimura submission. Other than that, Minner was on him all day long, bruh. The only time I would give Rosa anything was probably the end of the third round. Other than that, it was all Minner.
Yes, I have to agree. This actually was my favorite fight of the night.
Yeah.
We had two individuals who were both competent in the art that they chose to use. Rosa was a very, very good grappler slash jujitsuer. Minor, same thing. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a Khabib fight. Khabib is a better wrestler than everyone, so that's boring to me. But this particular matchup, it was sword for sword. You know what I mean? Yeah, Derek was the aggressor, which was what won them the fight. He was the aggressor. He initiated the takedown. On the ground, he was aggressive on the ground. Charles Rosa was fighting off of his back beautifully. But the prowess of Derek Maynard is he's just a tiny bit better than Rosa. You know what I mean? He's just a little bit better, and he's got very, very good gas tank. The way he fought, and my arms would have been dead by the second round, dead. But he was able to maintain that intensity the entire match, keeping Charles Rosa on his back. Charles, he tried to catch Derek Maynard slipping, but Derek had all his bases covered. There were no holes in his jiu-jitsu game. He is the man that we chose to win this matchup, but we just didn't think that he would do it in such a manner. You know, he was so dominant over someone who was a very good striker and someone who was a complete martial artist in his own right. He dominated him in the grappling matchup. He did not even allow him to initiate any of his striking. Actually, Maynard was the one that initiated all the striking in the matchup and kept Mr. Rosa on his heels the entire time. As soon as Mr. Rosa was going to engage in striking, he took him right down to the ground. You know what I mean? And then he was just all over him in a ferocious manner until the 15-minute marker. Charles, he was biding his time, but in this kind of match against an individual like Mr. Minor, don't buy your time. You got to fight off your back, man. And if you're not doing that, you're going to lose 10-9, 10-9, 10-9.
Well, like that's what I said. You know, Minner came from Nebraska to Kansas City to glory. But people, excuse me, people don't also realize that in his corner he's got Dakota Cochran. He's got Zach Cummings. He's got Grant Dawson. You know, when you correlate tremendous up-and-coming fighters in the sport and fighters from other platforms like Dakota Cochran, who was a UFC fighter, Bellator fighter, and now BKFC warrior, you know, you got three different complexities of the sport. And I just think Minner's wrestling was on point. His jiu-jitsu, Krause is a black belt, has been for 4 years. And I think the ability that Krause exudes in his fighters, I think Minner's fight IQ was on point last night. You know, I don't think he could have lost that. He went in, I talked to him the day before. He was relaxed. He was bored. He was just waiting to get his grind on.
And now that you mention it, I can remember hearing Mr. Cross giving instructions to Mr. Maynard as the fight was going on. Continuous instruction, and from the coach's mouth into the fighter's ear, and it was being implemented immediately as the fight was going on. So the syncness in the both of them, the chemistry was second to none. You know what I mean? Minor and his coach, and Rosa and his coach, the symmetry was quite clear with the Minor camp. They gelled a whole lot better than the other side, and that also played a huge factor in Mr. Minor's dominance in this matchup.
Oh yeah, I think we looked at Derek Minner and we're seeing a future champion in the sport. I really do. I mean, and I've been interviewing Derek. I've known Derek for a while. This kid just gets better each and every time he steps into the octagon. I mean, and you know, he's had some travesty 3-4 fights back, but you know what? It's what you take from that adversity. And you know, I think you couldn't have said it any better. The chemistry between Krause and Minner was on point. Krause would say, get your head deeper in between his legs, because when he was trying to get him in the triangle, you know, when he had him in the Kimura, he said, you know, grab a hold of your arm. Minner followed instruction to a T. And you know what? You're only as good as your team. Even though you're in there by yourself, you got to listen to what your coach is telling you. There was no chemistry from Rosa's camp. Nothing. So, you know, I predicted Minner before this fight. And, you know, I'm not going to lie. I got a 98.8% pick ratio. But if I bet on a fight, I'm going to lose. So I don't bet on fights. But the thing of it is I already knew Minner was going to win this fight. And he went in as an underdog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's These are
Yeah, we
facts.
picked
These are
them to win
facts.
too.
Yeah, this is a
We picked them
consensus.
to win too. Hmm.
I mean, Derek Minner winning last night. I mean, they say what, two in one accord. Now we got three in one accord. This is gospel. This is gospel. So, geez, I mean, we're here on a Sunday. So, yeah, Derek Minner possibly becoming a contender, if not the UFC champion, before it's all said and done. I mean, this is almost gospel. You know, a good camp around him, made the necessary sacrifices to ensure victory. You know, regardless, like Don, like you said, you know, had some travesty happen a couple fights ago, but you know, everything he wanted to make sure it burned a fire in him to make sure that didn't happen again. So again, shout out to Derek for doing that, you know. And we're gonna do a little something different here, right? Because yes, I am going to say this is the co-main event of the evening. But because we have Voodoo, who his foreign name pronunciation classes by Voodoo for one payment of $9.99.99 or four easy payments of $4.99.99, you can pronounce names like Foxy, and I'm not even going to get into it. I'm going to let Voodoo take it away. And again, if you're looking for anywhere to spend your stimulus money, your EDD back pay, your GameStop stock payouts, right? Your tax returns, whatever they may be. You want $1,000 to burn? Well, guess what? Do it and get some knowledge in your head. And do it by getting the foreign name pronunciation classes by Voodoo Maximus for four easy payments of $4.99.99 or one easy payment of $9.99.99. And you can pronounce names such as
Foxy
Yana
Yana
Kunze.
Kunitskaya versus
Yeah, there
Phenomena.
you go.
Caitlin Vieira. Hey, this particular matchup on Way Day, Caitlin Vieira did not make weight. What a disrespectful thing to do. What a disrespectful thing to do. You knew weeks and weeks ago that you were going to have to make weight and be at a bantamweight level, and yet you did not make weight. As a professional, as a co-main eventer, that is such a disrespectful thing to do and a slap in the face of the promotion. They trusted you. They trusted you to be in this position and show out, being the number four. Number four. After this win, she could have been next for the title. But now she lost to a number 8 in Yana, and you didn't make weight. Are you serious? Yana made weight. That means you had an advantage going into the matchup. You were more hydrated. And still nothing, right? This is your job as a professional fighter to make weight. You signed that contract and you said you would be at a bantamweight margin, and you did not make that. And they even gave you 1 pound, 1 pound, and still you blew it. And I cannot understand that. We go into this matchup the very next day, and it started off on the feet. Immediately, Vieira went in there and tried to take Kunitskaya down. She said, "Oh no, no, no! I'm very fresh right now. We are going to stand and we are going to fight on the fence." And that they did. But eventually, Caitlin was able to take her to the ground, and once she got to the ground, surprisingly, Yana Foxy was the one that was busy off her back. Busy off her back for the first 2 rounds. Busy off her back. And Caitlin, I understand you have top control. You're holding her down. Jiu-jitsu. You know, when I say things about jiu-jitsu, I do not hate jiu-jitsu. I do not hate jiu-jitsu. I love jiu-jitsu. I do jiu-jitsu. I practice jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? But as a jiu-jitsu artist in the NFL of fighting, which is the UFC, you must understand the game of wrestling and top dominance, how to smash your opponent while you're on top. I mean, if you go back to the history of mixed martial arts and you look at Mr. Coleman, Kevin Randleman, and people of this nature, are you serious, man? They haven't paved the way for you to understand how to smash someone on the ground, and you're not paying attention to that at this level in this time. The game keeps evolving, and you're still not learning. You worked so hard, you took her to the ground, and you couldn't do anything but hold on to her. And she's the one from her back smashing you from her back. I mean, the fight went the way it went. How could anyone be surprised that they give the fight to Yana Kunitskaya? And on top of that, Yana Kunitskaya cut you up and showed you how it's supposed to be done. This is someone who studied Taekwondo, someone who has a Taekwondo base, and that person smashes you, the one that's been on the ground, black belt in jiu-jitsu, black belt in judo. Where's all your jiu-jitsu? Where's all your judo? What happened? What happened? Maybe Mr. Mcguire can explain to me what happened.
Oh man, you don't want my honest opinion, bro. To me, both these fighters still. To me, both these fighters still need to be in Invicta. To me, I don't think they deserve to be in the UFC. I mean, I've shot both their careers, and you know, Yana was beat by Tanya Evinger.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
Yes.
not once but twice. You know, so and Caitlin Vera was never impressed. Never impressed me in Invicta. Don't sure as hell don't impress me in the UFC. These are two fighters that I think were part of a package deal. Like you get 39 Mercedes, but you got to take two Pintos. This is what I really, dude. I don't think they deserve to be the co-main event of the evening. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I think they needed. I really don't think they need. Honestly, you asked for my opinion. I'm gonna give you
Yeah.
my opinion. I've been in the sport for 25 years. There's more deserving fighters that deserve to be in the UFC and deserve these types of opportunities.
Yeah, you know, and it's
Agreed.
crazy, right? Because for me, you know, this is like the weight issue with Vieira, you know, notwithstanding, right? But Yana, right, like you mentioned on, right? She went up against Tanya Evinger, right? Lost twice, right? Went up against she had a Invicta featherweight title bout with Chris Cyborg, and yeah, anybody with aside from Amanda Nunes knows what happens when you face Chris Cyborg, right? So with that all being said, she didn't seem like a standout to me as somebody who watches Invicta with a pretty well regularity, right? Obviously not like Don, who's actually photographed a lot of these athletes and a lot of these shows, but somebody that is an avid watcher of Invicta, Yana wasn't somebody that struck me as like a great get for the UFC, right? There was gosh, I can't remember her name. Oh, Souza, Lavinia Souza. That one, woo, man. Talk about like great gets for the UFC coming from Invicta. That is one. That is absolutely one, right? If you would
Another
have,
one is Miranda Maverick.
yes, 100%, 100%. You know, but you give these two, you know, a co-main event, you wouldn't have gotten a weight cut, right? A Miranda Maverick and a Lavinia Sousa, right? Like you're not going to get a weight issue. You're not going to get a less than stellar co-main event. You're not going to get that. So, you know, I was surprised that, you know, Yana actually ended up, you know, beating Vieira, especially when Vieira had a 3 pound, well, as of weight day, they had a 3 pound weight disadvantage. But I mean, obviously they went in heavier going into it. This bout being classified as 180, I mean 138 pound catch weight. But again, they were probably closer to 145, you know, closer to feather than they were when they actually weighed in. But I was surprised that Foxy won because she isn't. I mean, it was Cindy Dadwa. Just because she's like the
Yeah.
sparkly princess, you know, kind of is emblazoned in my memory more so than Yana Kunskaya, and that's just because you know Dadwa.
Cindy Dandois hits like a, a blind dude trying to hit a pinata. I mean, dude,
But
I'm
I
just being
remember
honest.
her versus
But
Yana Kunskaya.
yeah, but you know what? Now that we got, before we get to the main event of the evening, I want to bring up one point because I proved something to you. You know, you guys kind of disagreed with me, but I proved something to you. A lot of people said, "Oh, Jillian Robertson was sick. Jillian Robertson was sick." Well, if you're sick, Why you posting booty pictures? You know, why you posting booty pictures? You're
You,
supposed to be sick. You couldn't fight, but you're on Facebook and other social media sites posting booty pictures. Come on. You know, to me, like I said it before, and I'll say it again, I'm not afraid to speak my mind. She was afraid of Miranda Maverick.
Mhm.
She was afraid that she was going to get her ass handed to you. I proved it to you, Adam. I sent you a picture.
no,
If you're
100%.
supposed to be sick, why didn't you fight?
Yeah,
If you could post a booty picture, why didn't you step up against the Maverick? Because she was scared. Because she was scared.
yeah. Shots fired. Shots
I
fired.
She
mean,
didn't want to get shot.
she didn't want to get capped. Exactly, bro. And I mean, see, that's the difference between me and a lot of people. You know, like Adam said, I shoot the sport. I've shot the sport. I've watched Miranda Maverick from a nobody to a somebody. That kid has heart, perseverance, and dedication. Jillian Robertson, I loved her fighting style. But you know what? These fighters get to a certain point. Oh, well, I don't want to lose my ranking. Maverick came out in her last fight, was feeding her opponent elbows. I don't want to be that person. So I'll sit this one out, get my show pay, and wait for the next opportunity. That's pathetic. Dana White, you need to clean that shit up, bro, because nah, that should never happen.
Hey, for the record, I picked Maverick too.
Yeah, I think we all did. No, I went Jillian Robertson because I was just like, the fuck. I mean, I kind of knew what was going to happen, but I just wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt, which she fucked up. And again, the booty pictures. And again, it's not like we don't live in an age of social media where the timestamp, right? Her
Yeah.
timestamp, where she posted the fucking picture when she was at an ill state, right? The picture that Don sent me. Uh, yeah, what the fuck, man? That's weird. But I know it's weird that we're talking about it, and I think it's great that we're talking about losing rank and status and what people do in and outside of the octagon because I think it matters because we are at the main event of the evening. And gentlemen, forgive me, but I'm going to go ahead and take it because we have the Black Beast Derek Lewis against Curtis Razor Blades. And this is the one I'm going to go hard in the paint. You know, I don't like when, especially as somebody that isn't a fighter, right? I I think Booker T on commentary during a John Cena match and a win, he said, with limited skill and limited ability, John Cena rose to the heights, right? Well, in Booker T's estimation of John Cena, even though that might have been a verbal foobar, a verbal piece of shit that he's uttered out, that is me. This is somebody, I'm not like you, Don, where I've photographed some of the most elite athletes in the world. I'm not you, Voodoo, who has fought on some of the cards and some of the most elite fighters that are in all of the organizations, LFA, Bellator, UFC included, that they fought on your undercard. A lot of people want to be champion, right? You were a MMA champion, right? So with that all being said, I am going hard in the paint on on Curtis Razor Blades because this is somebody who bellyached, right? That when Brock Lesnar pushed DC after DC beat Stipe, why does everybody care? And I'm not making fun of his speech impediment. That's not what I'm here to do. But you were bellyaching, sir, right? And the thing about it is, almost like Shanna Dobson, right? Shanna Dobson, more likely than not, with a 4-5 record, is going to be escorted unceremoniously out of the UFC, right? Now, Shanna Dobson was in the UFC as a roster member, whether she was paid or not, since her season of the Ultimate Fighter. So we're going on 10 years, right? So now Shanna Dobson is in a point where she ends her career or goes back to the regional scene and improve whatever she can to get to to wherever she wants to be in her fighting career, right? Whether that happens or not. But again, Shanna Dobson, what with a name like Danger, right? You could put that on T-shirts. You could be Shanna Danger Dobson, whatever, Realty, whatever the hell it is, right? You guys mentioned about Conor McGregor, in your case, Voodoo, uh, James Krause, in your case, Don Mcguire, of people that don't even need MMA, right? Don't even need MMA to get their. They've gotten way more from other things and used their popularity in MMA to usher in a multi-million and sometimes close to $1 billion entity and intellectual property, right? Curtis Blades, you didn't do that, sir. You wanted to be a martial artist. You wanted to be a martial artist, not me. You, good sir, right? I First off, I kind of have a weird thing about like parts and hair and whatever. His hair versus beard ratio, it weirds me the fuck out. I will say that. It's not cool to say whatever. You're not born with whatever, but he is the missing link. And I'm not talking about Dewey Robinson of world class wrestling. No, he is it. He looks like a Cro-Magnon man, right? But in addition to that, having all this shit, fucking carved out in your head. Well, guess what? That was a good place, a good target for Derek Lewis, somebody who has not only knockout power, but has been able to cultivate his roster spot in the UFC into marketing gold. There is a reason why Popeyes, a national and international chain, is behind Derek Lewis, right? In addition to him being a what? A martial artist, right? There are people that bought at a $30 price point. My balls was hot T-shirts by the hundred thousands, if not millions, at $30 a pop. You do the math. That's a shitload of money. That's more than his price points and price purses in the UFC. Right? He turned an opportunity after he knocked out Curtis Razor Blades, and they asked him about Houston. Right? A lot of people were trying to get into some sort of like, give him the bait and he'll take it and say some dumb shit. And he turned it into marketing gold. He's like, what do you think about Houston and what's going on there? He's like, well, guess what? They're cold because my balls is hot and my hot balls ain't there. Right? So, Houston, you're going to get warmed up because I've booked my flight and it's going to be 80. That's fucking marketing gold, in addition to being one of the top heavyweights in the world, right? So again, you can judge not only the vitality of combat sports on how the rest of the world, the casuals, are talking about the heavyweight division. It holds true in boxing, probably holds true in Lethwei and Muay Thai, but definitely in the UFC, right? There have been more heavyweights that we were talking about in 2021, and Derek Lewis is in that conversation. So with that all being said, guess what? You poked Dana White when Brock pushed DC. I'm just a skilled martial artist. I'm not going to get it. Why am I overlooked and everything like that? Well, guess what? You're a skilled martial artist. Dana White told you, right? Be a skilled martial artist with nothing else to it, and you're going to be teaching judo at a strip mall in Colorado. And that's almost where he's at. So again, for anybody, right? And then a lot of people don't like. A lot of the MMA diehards will talk about, well, I don't want any WWE type. Well, I don't want pro wrestling in my MMA and everything like that. Here's the thing: you don't have to. There's pro wrestling beyond Hulk Hogan. Oh, let me tell you something, brother, and probably some racist shit that he said afterwards. But I digress. With that all being said, what you can take out of professional wrestling is build your fan base, because go to pro wrestling conventions pre-COVID, right? Wrestlers who are long since their prime are charging $50 a pop to take a picture, right? $50 a pop for a t-shirt, for a memorabilia into the thousands of trunks that you wore and all of that jazz. That is what I would like people to. It's not just the promo and everything like that. And if you can cut a promo, awesome, tremendous, fucking great, right? But Barnett, who's an IWGP champion, right, in Japan, he can go on Rogan 2 times, and those are some of the highest rating next to Elon Musk Rogan episodes that there are, into the 20 millions, right? And hold the conversation for 2+ hours 2 times, right? One of the most articulate people that there are, not just the fact that he's a fighter, right? So here you are, resting on your laurels. You picked that hill to die on of being a martial artist. Well, guess what? We talked about it earlier with somebody with a 1-2 punch getting finished. Well, that's exactly what happened to a great martial artist like Curtis Blades likes to be. And what does it do for him? He's going to go home to his fiance with money less in the paycheck. For what?
Yeah, that fight kind of reminded me of Fridays, the movie Fridays.
Yeah, you got knocked the fuck out.
Right. And not only did you get knocked the fuck out, you ate a few on the way.
Yeah. Herb Dean is a saint. He is a saint. Nominate that dude for sainthood. I'm not the most religious person, but that's a saint. Saving people's lives and days and shit like that, that's sainthood. Herb Dean deserves sainthood for that stoppage because, again, he would. If you thought that Curtis Blades had a speech impediment beforehand, he sure as hell does now. Shit.
Yeah, I was just surprised Buffer didn't jump in the cage and go, "Damn, you got knocked the fuck out."
Where were you, Michael Bisping? Where were you, Alan Joe Bob? We needed that from you. Karen Bryant, US too. Because, like, this is, you could have done it.
Bruh, if Bisping would have got hit that hard, his eyeball would have popped out. I mean, I'm just being real. Well, he's got a fake eye. Michael Bisping's got a fake eye.
Yeah.
If Derek Lewis would have hit him like that, his eye would have been rolling across the octagon, bruh. Voodoo's like, why did I invite this man on the show?
Oh no, we did this. This is what we do. This is what we do here at North of the Woods.
No.
You guys are staying.
Hey, look. Hey, that's what the doctor ordered, man. That's what the doctor ordered. Hey, quiet. When you perform in such a manner, I mean, you leave the door open for commentary like this. I mean, the man, like you said, is the martial artist. He's got excellent wrestling, excellent boxing, excellent kicking. He's got the total package in the heavyweight division. He is one of the handful of fighters in the heavyweight division that has a total package, and he is number 3 in line after Francis Ngannou to get the title. Or actually, after John Jones, Francis, and then himself. So he's in line in prime spot to steal the thunder of Derek Lewis and wait in line for his opportunity. He was going to get 2 paychecks. Everything was set. All he had to do was watch out for the power hand. That's it. That's all you had to do. Now, how do you game plan for someone who is a wrestler? You're looking for the knee. You're looking for the uppercut. I mean, it's very simple. This man is a top-of-the-line UFC fighter who is on the highest stage of them all, at the highest level. He has only, up until this point, had only lost one man twice, right? He had only lost one man twice, and he lost this time around for the same exact reason. He wanted to turn into a street thug, a street fighter. You are not a street fighter. You call yourself a martial artist. Then behave like a martial artist and be technical with yours. Be technical, Mr. Razor Curtis Blades. You were not technical. You turned yourself into a street fighter, a thug. You are not a thug. Why did you fight like a thug? When you step on the mat and you try and fight in a manner that you were not trained to fight, you will go to sleep. The first time you stepped in there with Francis, you put your lights out. You went back, fought your way back to another match with him. You got back in there and you did the same thing. He put your lights out again because you try to stand with a stand-up fighter. Do not stand with a stand-up fighter. Do not do that. You are a dynamic striker. You are not heavy in boxing or heavy in kicking or heavy. Yeah, you're heavy in wrestling, but you know how to mix it all together. Why didn't you initiate what you do best, which is mixing it together? You wanted to stand. I mean, in the beginning, he was doing very well. He was kicking that leg. You know what I mean? He shouldn't have boxed as much as he did. He should have just kept kicking. And kicking the leg, Derek Lewis will try and time that overhand or that straight too. That will be your cue to go for the takedown. From the kick, step in there and go for the takedown. He wanted to stay. He wanted to be proud. He wanted to be a tough guy. Why are you going in there trying to be a tough guy? This is not a tough guy contest. Tough man competition was 15 years ago on what station was that?
ESPN,
What sports station was that?
ESPN. It was on ESPN.
ESPN.
It's still
Tough
on
man
ESPN.
yeah, something like that. Whatever it was. Tough man competition was 15, 20 years ago, man. That was then. This is now. This is the highest level of mixed martial arts. This is the highest level of fighting, period. And you're over here trying to be tough and prove to someone. Who are you trying to prove to? Dana White? Dana White doesn't like you. Dana
Yeah.
White doesn't like you. Why are you trying to prove to Dana White that you're tough? Why are you trying to prove to Dana White that you can stand Derek Lewis? Why? Why? Just be the bad guy that you're meant to be. You are destined to be a bad guy. Be the bad guy. And on top of that, you have the special needs community behind you. Understand, around the world there are lots of special needs folks. He can jump on that bandwagon,
Yeah.
on that wave, and surf his way to superstardom. They will back you up, man. They will back you up. You have a speech impediment? Use that. Use that. You know what I'm saying? Use that. You did not use that one until you trying to do something that you are not designed to do, which is fight boxing with a heavy-handed individual. Why would you keep Derek Lewis where he's most comfortable? Why? Keep kicking that leg, keep chopping that leg. Eventually, he will lose his balance. For him to throw that heavy shot, he needs 50 in the front and 50 in the back. If you chop that front and make it 20 and 50 in the back, he will not be able to do what he does best, throw that heavy hand. You know what I mean? By the third round or the fourth round, then you can start doing that boxing thing. He will be compromised by then. But oh no, Curtis Blaze wants to prove to someone. I mean, Curtis Blaze wants to prove, I don't know who he's trying to prove how tough he is to, but he wants to prove to someone. And then on top of that, he made the ultimate sin, the cardinal sin, as they say. You want to shoot from a mile away? You want to shoot from a mile away against a man who is not compromised? Of course he's going to throw that uppercut and knock you out with his forearm. He didn't even hit him with his fist. He hit him with his forearm and knocked his block off. And then while he was falling timber, while he was hitting that ground, Derek Lewis got 2 more heavy shots in there. Lucky for Curtis that he was already out, because those 2 shots that hit him after that, I don't believe he felt it.
Oh, we got 2 for the price of 1, bro. We got 2 knockouts for the price of 1. But it was vicious. I don't understand where Curtis Blades was coming from. I don't understand his thought process. But you know what? I gotta say, man, I'm not a big Derek Lewis fan. I'm really not. And I'll be honest, but when you open yourself up like that to a man that is capable of knocking anybody's head off, bruh, then that's on you. And Curtis Blades, like you said, he tried to stand and bang. He took himself out of his own game. When you take yourself out of your comfort zone, of course your opponent's going to capitalize. And I'm gonna tell you, Derek Lewis isn't the most phenomenal on the ground. He's not the greatest fighter that I think exists in the heavyweight division. But you give him that opportunity, he's going to let you see Sunday real quick. And like I said, we got 2 knockouts for the price of 1, so I'm not mad. I'm not mad. Bro, I'm not disappointed in it at all. Although like I said, the fight for me of the night was probably either the Derek Minner or Aspinall fight, but the knockout, man, that knockout with Lewis, that was delicious. That was straight delicious. I mean, that was Jello with some whipped cream and cherries on top. Oh yeah. I mean, he put that double twang on that, bro. And them hammer fists at the end. Oh, bro.
Yeah. No, 100%. And here's the thing. Oh, go ahead, Dom.
I was just gonna say he better be glad that the ref jumped in when he did because he was fitting to get a third.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I said, Herb Dean is a saint. I mean, there's not no such thing as a perfect ref because much like fighting, you're only as good as your last call, right? So there's that. But here's the thing, I mean, razor blades, right? So here you are, right? You did all the whole gimmick about cutting some dumb designs in your hair. I think they're dumb. They might mean something to you, might mean something to somebody, but why didn't you have T-shirts with that design, right? Be like Habib, everybody's wearing Dagestani war hats because of Habib, right? Even though that's a war hat and a traditional whatever, you should have marketed it yourself because the UFC is not going to do that. Wear some headpieces, right? Why didn't you talk to some company around Halloween to have Curtis Blades heads, because Mr. T had them. Mr. T had them where you had the skullet with the Mr. T haircut, right? You could have done that. There were marketing opportunities, right? But look, you have the speech impediment, you have the hair, all of these things that you could have played as you were ranked number 3 in your division, right? Like 3 away from the title. And again, here's the thing you mentioned, right? Ngannou is probably one of the next ones, if not the next one for Stipe, right? You got John Jones. John Jones leapfrogged you, not even being in the division. And yes, he's a long-term champion and everything like that. The loss to Matt Hamill is debatable, what have you. But John Jones could overlook you in your own division that you have made your place. You have fought so hard to get to your number. And John Jones leapfrogged you, not doing a fucking thing. So again, Curtis Blades, you got to ask yourself at the knockout, after the memes that I and the rest of the world shared about you, where the hell do you have to show for it? Because now you're going down in the rankings. And now you've got the Aspinalls that you got to worry about. You've got the Sergey Spivaks to worry about.
Exactly.
You've got a lot of people. Hell, you got even let's say Alexei Olenek doesn't get in, right? Let's say Arlovsky wants to get another one. Let's say Alistair Overeem wants to get another one, right? Look at all of these. Like the heavyweight division, I don't think has ever been more scary than there is right now. Tenured veterans, as well as young upstarts, young bucks, as you will, right? So with that being said, here we go, Sunday after arguably one of the most devastating knockouts in your career. And again, all of your losses in the UFC have come by way of knockouts, of one-dimensional fighters, supposedly, right? So again, with all the martial arts that you wanted to be and the flag that you wanted to poke in the proverbial hill, where are you today? Because you don't have money, and the money that you could have generated even in a loss. Because guess what? After Conor lost, he showed a hell of a lot more fucking proper 12 whiskey, right? James Krause doesn't need to win to be the fucking king of Missouri as he is, right? And again, exactly. Derek Lewis, where the fuck are you? Nowhere better than you were before, and with less zeros behind it. So again, was it all worth it to be a traditional martial artist? I think not.
I'm not going to disagree with you. It was an honor and a privilege for me to come on here with you guys tonight. I had fun, man. I don't bite my tongue. I say what's on my heart. I don't know if you caught the video on my page yesterday on my reflection in the last 25 years in the sport. It is what it is, and you know what? I've created a name for myself, and I'm honored and I'm humbled that I get this opportunity with you, because you know what? Real recognize real. And it's been an honor and a pleasure for me, but I got a dip. I got a show with Mr. Live Worldwide in about 20 minutes here, and my third show of the night, but I still can't beat Mr. Woods. Mr. 5 shows a day, the hardest working man. But go ahead, Adam.
But before we leave, we want to, for those who hadn't heard about your health issues, all we want to do here, this kind of conglomerate that we have built amongst each other is to heap all bits of positivity, all bits of strength to you as you go into a procedure this coming week. And I mean, you're going to be back here with us on a Sunday, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
most
you might take a chins, a shot to the chin, not like Curtis Blades did, but different, you know. You might be a little bit worse for wear. You might have been through a battle, but you will be here Sunday. So again, Don Mcguire, we thank you for everything that you've given to the sport, all of the fine photography that you've provided us over the year, all of the fine shows that you've done at the Fighter's Voice. And again, if you guys haven't already done so, go ahead and check out the Fighter's Voice at Don Mcguire. You can thank me later. But again, Don, it has been an honor and privilege. And again, we will see you because you're going to, as they say in wrestling, you're going to make a kick out. You're going to beat whatever the hell this thing is. So again, all positivity, all love, all of it to you. Thank you so much. And again, we'll see you Sunday. I'll message you Thursday after. Again, you'll probably be groggy and shit. But even still, we're here for you because you have been there for so many of us, and we thank you for it.
Oh, man. Thank you. I love you guys, man. Stay blessed, stay real, stay humble, keep doing what you're doing. You're changing the sport day by day, and you're giving names to people that deserve it. And you know what? That's what it's all about. Voodoo Maximus, stay solid. Adam, you already know I love your ugly ass. God bless you, brothers.
Thank you,
Peace out.
Peace out.
Thank you.
So that is
All
UFC
right.
Vegas 19. Thank you guys for watching us. And again, if you haven't already done so, go ahead and follow the former U of MMA champion, Pius Enola Lobo, but we know him as Voodoo Maximus on all of his social media. So that is what? Facebook,
Facebook
Twitter,
page, Instagram, Twitter. I guess Twitter and Periscope are gonna be merging. So Twitter scope,
I guess this,
Instagram,
and then
and YouTube.
this.
You know what I mean? Like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification button. We're gonna be bringing content to you, Voodoo New Woods, all day, every day. And according to Woods, like, share, and subscribe. Let's go.
Absolutely. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the Voodoo in the Woods podcast on Facebook and YouTube, where, again, we're going to be kicking this stuff live to you all day, every day, especially when there's UFCs and other stuff going on in the MMA lithosphere. So again, we can't thank you enough for joining us here on a Sunday night or whatever day it is, wherever you are. We hope that you're well, and we will see you on the next episode of What We Are